but I use a chart that looks something like this. And it's really, it could be a spreadsheet or whatever. But so we have a column. I'm probably not doing this well, but we have a column that just physically lists everything. Okay. Then what we do is we say, okay, what's the priority? That's the P right
Yes.
there. Okay, is that high priority? Is it low priority? Is it super high priority? Then we rank it. So we may have 4 things that are high priority. So one's going to be like high 1, high 2, high 3, high 4. So we take every single assignment, whether it's going to take 1 minute or 90 minutes, and we're going to rank them 1 to however many there are. Then we take that, we circle back, and we shuffle them around and say, all right, we're going to do them in this order. Then you got to stick to it. Now, again,
Right.
like I said, not rocket science, but the secret here is having a plan, having a system. And there's a lot of nuance to this I'm not getting into, but then really the execution is the key. And it's
Right.
perfectly fine.
True.
And I encourage people, especially if this works well in an academic setting, if you're planning a day, like a school day, also works very well in a homework setting. But you need to build other things in. You can build in breaks. It's not healthy for a kid to sit there for 7 straight hours doing schoolwork.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, they need to get up and run around and eat and I don't know, whatever.
Right. So those sensory breaks, those lunch times, they're priorities within
Yes.
that schedule.
So you build them in. And so to kind of circle back, we get a complete list of what needs to get done, which is going to fall into 2 categories. One, I call them short term, things that need to get done that day. In other words, they're basically homework for tomorrow.
Right.
Now, with homeschooling, you don't always have quite the deadlines you might in a public school or another forum, but they exist, especially if you're on a preset curriculum and you have timestamps. The second thing would be longer term things. Like, for example, it's Tuesday, and I'll just use math. Tomorrow we need to do unit 6.5, problems 1 to 12, and they have to be done by 5 o'clock today. That'd be short term. But now we also know next Monday we have a quiz on chapter 6.
Right.
Now, here's really the beauty of the system is we account for both. I don't take for granted working with a child that just doing their homework is adequate for them to also study for a quiz or something else. I consider that a separate, for lack of a better term, assignment.
Yeah.
So we say, all right, let's do the homework. Let's get that done. That assumes they understand it and, don't need actual support in terms of the logistics of it. Now, let's circle back and review. How we're going to review, we got to go back and look at the other material you had as well. And there's always an overlay into, I guess, what we could call tutoring, as opposed to sort of a time management concern. But that's the idea. So we have short term, long term. We have daily priority. What are you going to do first, second, third? What's high, what's low? What's medium priority? Then we have the long term ones that we can look at. Tests or quizzes you might have down the road. Maybe a
Right.
paper or a project that's due in however many days or however many weeks.
Well, I think that's where a lot of students get most tripped up is those things that are the longer term, because we can check off those to-do lists of, yes, I got this little assignment done, but the ones that are further out have a little bit more ambiguity or require more days of input,
Yes.
studying and work. That's how do we prioritize and build that in over a long term versus, the last minute deadline that they
Well,
usually will push it off to.
The easier answer is you just make it a daily activity. Okay, I mean, that's my system, or the system I have used and created. Look, this is kind of like the parents not getting through their kids when somebody else can.
Yeah.
How many people out there, a little show of hands, have ever had a situation where a kid knew about a test for 2 weeks but didn't study for it till 11 o'clock the night before?
Right.
Never happened. It never happened to anybody I knew. So you ask yourself, why is it in a world where everybody knows this is coming, you got this test? It isn't like the teacher sprung it on you or the curriculum sprung it on you that morning.
Right.
So why is it so? Epidemic's a bad word to use right now. Why is it so common that this happens so much? And I think it's probably because kids are just inherently lazy. You know, you give a 14-year-old a choice. You want to do homework, or you want to go play. I'm not going to pick homework most of the time anyway. But that's why, especially if you're a facilitator, and I don't know if you have a word every body in your homeschool communities use, but facilitator is a big one in my kind of geography. Coordinator, facilitator. They don't usually use the word teacher, is kind of my point. I think this is what you really have to ingrain into your communities, is that, yes, we need to get done what's on the plate for that day. Absolutely, that's obvious. What's not as obvious is we also have to consider what's coming up down the road as equally important.
Right.
Maybe not for the next day, equally important, but equally important in terms of your academics, your education, your commitment to it. That I build in to the time management piece, and I build it in through a priority, through the priorities of it.
Right.
So again, to repeat myself, we collect the list, we rank, short-term or long-term, we prioritize with each one of them, we set the time boundaries, we build in breaks. Now we created a schedule, and now we go to work.
Yeah.
Now,